Hello, this is Lynn McClenahan. I'm wanting to welcome you all to the webinar today, which is Create Your Own Holiday. It's a time of year that we try to offer something to help support people through what can be both a happy period of time, but it can also be a stressful period of time. So I hope you all enjoy this webinar, Create Your Own Holiday. The other little piece of information is all will be able to get access to the webinar in PDF form, PowerPoint, after the presentation, as well as the copies of the handouts are available now. So we'll kind of start with moving into sort of what are we talking about when we talk about the kind of what can be helpful during the holiday season. One of the things that I think is really important to make it a little less stressful is to do as much as possible to create your own holiday. We often have a pattern of this is how my parents did it, or my grandparents, or my neighbors do it, or commercials tell me to do, and then that can create more stress. And there's things that go with that, which we'll be talking about, where we kind of lose track of our healthy habits. So hopefully by creating your own holiday, we can reduce some of that stress. And just from a book that much of this is taken from is called Unplug the Christmas Machine. And she talks about during the holiday season, we find ourselves overspending on our budget, taking on more responsibility. We have less time with our family because we're so busy doing other things. So the qualities that are supposed to be around the holiday season, which is family togetherness and enjoyment of each other and the environment, is actually can be reduced during this time. So, and again, too often we celebrate what we think our holiday should look like, or what our pattern or history has been with how our parents did it or grandparents did it, and it's going to be more helpful if we look at what's important to each of us to create our own holiday. There's lots of holidays during this period of time. We've had Thanksgiving, we've got Hanukkah, we're moving quickly into Christmas, Kwanzaa, New Year's, lots of celebration. And, that can also have us, what comes up for you when you think about the holidays. And so our first polling questions are a couple. If you could answer, as the holidays draw near, do you find yourself feeling mostly happy and excited, or mostly stressed and anxious? So if you could kind of vote or answer the polling question, we can get a quick idea of how people are feeling right now, of the people that are here participating in this webinar. So the responses are coming in. It's pretty balanced, where most people are feeling, 46% are feeling happy and excited, but 54% are feeling stressed and anxious. So a little slanted in the direction of feeling more stressed. So hopefully this webinar, this seminar will help you feel better and give you some ideas of how to make that better for yourselves and your family. So what are the aspects of holiday stress that kick in during this time? Well, there's some external things, obviously, especially here in Oregon. Our days are shorter. The weather is colder. I've been very happy with the sunshine we've been having. I think all of us have. But at the same time, it's been much more cold, and with the wind especially. So even enjoying that sunny weather when it's so cold isn't as enjoyable as it could be. The holiday countdown begins. We are counting the days till Christmas, how much shopping we still have to do. The malls are filled with decorations, music and food are ample, etc., etc. And what the effects of the holiday reality is that we have less free time, less sleep. We usually get less exercise because it's just harder to get outside to do the exercise or get over to the gym, whatever. We have less time to be alone because families are gathering and maybe from out of town, and less relaxed time with family and friends oftentimes. what we have more of are more sugar and fats that are consumed, more alcohol is consumed. We worry about money and our responsibilities. There's more to do in general. Is this a holiday? Are we having fun yet? No, we're kind of can feel a little, just even in reviewing that list, I find my own shoulders tightening up, going, oh my gosh, and what is my list still involved? So again, take a breath. We're going to give you some suggestions, some help, some different ways of looking at your holiday season. The sources of holiday stress can come from many different directions. Family, where again it's a time to be together, which can be joyful. If we're bringing different family members together, it can also be a time of stress with kids being out of school, kids' expectations around the holidays, their expectations about gifts, our expectations of the gifts that should be bought, blah, blah, blah. The amount of time that it takes out of our lives, and again, the money. The sources of holiday stress. We're definitely impacted nowadays with commercialism.
It targets our vulnerability, pressures people into buying gifts to make for time not spent with others during the year. So lots of things, other things contribute to that. Commercialism also promises unrealities. We have pictures of perfect families portrayed in the advertisements. Everybody is happy and smiling. And I think we all know that the reality oftentimes can be much different. Other aspects of stress, again, are sometimes being alone or too much family, either direction. For people who are single or have gone through a recent divorce or even the loss of a loved one, that can be a very difficult time of feeling alone and having too much alone time because of friends and other friends and family might be busy with other things. And it can also emphasize the feeling of isolation. It can emphasize some feelings of depression that can contribute to our stress level. The other direction is too much family. We have, the drunk uncle coming in to visit from out of state, the classic example, or other family coming in and staying at your house that kind of has more busyness, more crowding, the personalities, the communication, all of those aspects that come with too much family. Again, we referenced the losses suffered during the year. That comes up more acutely during that time. Emotional disappointments, whether it's the loss of a loved one, that's one thing for sure, but also emotional disappointments. There's a friend of mine got recent news that her being laid off from a job. I mean, there's disappointments that come to the forefront here during the holidays, the reality of life. And then the seasonal affective depression is when the days are shorter and the light is lower, and especially usually where we have mostly cloudy days and rain in Oregon, we're more susceptible to the holiday blues or the reality of seasonal affective depression. So those also contribute to the holiday season being more stressful. So what do we do? How do we handle? How might we handle things differently? Some practical things are just looking at our calendars and how we can structure the coming days and weeks to make plans early and get those on the calendar and kind of make sure that everyone's calendar is getting the same communication. So I'm realizing from my end that I've kind of let my one adult son and his family know about the holiday plans, but I forgot to mention it to my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. So I'm going, oh my gosh, I need to catch up with that. So making plans early and making sure that communication is shared with all people that are going to be, that you're inviting to your holiday gatherings, for example. Avoid long visits. How does that work? Well, it can be really structured in a way where, again, using my example, our family gathering, which includes some local extended family, would start in the past at like 9 a.m. for breakfast, and let alone, then going in to see the get the stockings for the kids, and then the lunch, and then we open presents, and then we have dinner, et cetera, and pretty soon people are there from 9 in the morning until 8 at night, and it really was too much. And I think everyone agreed. So kind of this year, we're structuring it differently. We're having people come, just the reality of other separate obligations that people have also, where they're coming over more like at 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and we're starting with some present opening and then dinner. So, and then we're going to be ending it soon after that with dessert as people kind of head back home. So there's a way of structuring it when an encouragement is to structure it in any way that you can where it fits your lifestyle and it fits what you and your family would like to do. The other reality is this can also be a period of time where people can get into, again, differences of opinion. And we've had a season, just the most obvious one right now, are differences politically, where there can be strong opinions in one direction or another. My suggestion is that those differences can be tabled during the holiday season because it can be challenging enough, let alone to get into discussion or differences or arguments around either, again, political differences or old stuff that comes up in terms of personality or family arguments that come up from the past. The other idea that some people are doing is getting together at a different time of the year. We all kind of concentrate around the holiday, around Hanukkah, around Christmas, around New Year's. And, my brother, again, using my example, my brother and sister-in-law who used to come down to our house for the holiday, or we'd go up there, we've all decided that we're going to get together later in better weather in the spring, and instead just keep to our local family members here in Portland. So those are options to kind of look at for yourselves as well. Be flexible with traditions. Again, we may have a routine, well, we've always done it this way, and your parents may have done it this way, and they may not be, maybe that they're not in the area or are not part of your lives right now due to maybe they're deceased. You've got options just to not stay in that kind of that, be flexible, don't stay rigid on saying this is, again, the way we've always done it, so we need to stay and do it that way all the time. Even with family members that are with us, that it can be, to say, Mom and Dad, I'm glad you're coming out again to visit with us. We're going to do things a little bit differently, and bring the other family members into that conversation. And the last one is to involve children. What do they enjoy? What would they like to do? Do they have ideas of doing something differently? Have they heard about things from their friends at school that sounded like a fun thing to do? So kind of get their involvement on this. I'm a new grandmother, so I'm very excited tomorrow to go with my 2-year-old grandson and my son and daughter-in-law to go to Zoo Lights. That will be a first for us. My hope is that it may be a tradition for next year, but I'm not going to be rigid about it. If they want to do it and we have a good time tomorrow, then it will be a fun time. So kind of involving other family members, involving children to make this part of that season of happiness and excitement that we want it to be. Okay, so be open and flexible in your thinking about your traditions. And the sources of stress also include just our own expectations that either come from family or ourselves, or again from commercialism around what we think we should do. Some expectations can be, I must be with my family, or else it won't be a good Christmas or a good holiday. An expectation our home and family should be like Martha Stewart's. Well, the reality is that's not reality for most people. My kids should be happy and excited about Christmas, and for the most part, they will be. And there will also be the meltdown or the kind of the occasional overload and follow-up tantrums that can come from that. Or that they also get burnt out themselves, and you sort of say, whoa, wait a minute, they need some time too. Let's not plan too much. Another aspect when we look at expectations are of feelings. I should feel happy, generous, and loving. Why aren't I feeling happy, generous, and loving right now? Instead, I'm feeling irritable, short-tempered, and angry. That doesn't feel, there must be something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. It's an unrealistic expectation. I should feel happy, generous, and loving at all times. The reality is this can be a stressful time. I need to be patient with myself. I need to be patient with the people around me. Expectations around financial. I will disappoint people if I don't spend a lot of money. I must get the same number of gifts for family members as we've done in the past. I must give a gift for every gift that's given to me, those kinds of things, and it doesn't matter if we're going over budget. So be careful of the financial expectations. I will disappoint people if I don't spend lots of money. Look at what the follow-up to that will be for yourself of the strain of the going over your budget. Competition, again, what will people think of me if we don't have all the lights up? We are probably one of the only houses right now on our block that doesn't have some kind of Christmas lights up. And that's sort of mainly because of lack of time. But I do find myself thinking, oh my gosh, we really should go out and get at least some kind of lights up to be like the neighbors. Well, I don't think we're being judged by that from other neighbors. Perhaps we are. But again, that doesn't need to be my concern. I don't want it to be my concern of my making a choice to have lights up or not up. There are many other examples of that, but kind of like being aware of that for yourself and your families. The expectations of eat, drink, and be merry. I have to drink and be with a lot of, eat a lot to be merry with the rest. That absolutely doesn't have to be true. We will be much better off if we all kind of stay with some moderation in both our eating and certainly our drinking. Being sensitive on that level too, really being sensitive about that with the alcohol in particular. There may be family members who are in recovery and feel pressured that if there's a lot of wine or alcoholic beverages around that they're not going to feel comfortable. Just in general, it's not going to be helpful it's not going to be a way of reducing stress to have people get more drunk, basically. So keeping things to a much more modest level on the consumption, especially with alcohol in particular. So we'll be careful about those expectations. So looking at the next polling question, wondering if any of you, as you think about this, have you changed your holiday routine over the last 5 years to be less stressful? And we don't have time to find out how you've done that or what you've done, but just in general, have you made changes over your holiday routine over the last 5 years to be less stressful? I am loving seeing the response to this, where the majority of you right now, answers are still coming in, but it's looking like 73% of you have indicated that you have changed your holiday routine over the last 5 years to be less stressful, and 25 to 30% haven't. So again, good for you. You've made some changes. Hopefully they've been easy changes and people have been adaptable. And maybe, something for the other people to look at. If you like what you're doing, I'm not saying you need to change it, but if it's feeling like you're paying a price for that holiday activity due to a lot of expectations and routines, my encouragement is that it might be worth taking a look at to change that, make it a little different for the next holiday season, and maybe even this holiday season. It's not too late. So looking on into what do we do about this? What might we do to make things a little different? So some holiday stress buster ideas are to just rethink what is stressing you out and reassess and prioritize. Tell yourself, if I have time, I'll do it. So again, being careful about overscheduling, saying, I'm going to knock this off my list this year. We don't have to, we don't, for some people, they've gone to zoo lights the last 5 years. They say, let's not do it again. It's going to be very cold tomorrow. So again, rethink what's stressing you out, look at your routines, look at your activities, and then be able to say to yourself and talk over with your family, if I have time, I'll do it. If we have time, we'll do it. We've got a lot of things that are on our schedule this year, family. What are the things that are most important to us? Delegate. Let each family member be responsible for something. Create a job jar. So make it fun. It can be something that could be, this is a lot, it's a happy time, but it can be a time of a lot of work. So we'll have a job jar this year. Who's going to be pick out your job for, in general, year-round. It can be a great idea, especially with kids, where it ends up being something shared. Who's going to, take the dog for a walk today? Who's going to unload the dishwasher? So it doesn't all have to be done by you. That's the main message. Sometimes we think, I'm the only one that can do it, or I'm the only one that will do it right. My encouragement is to look at ways that you can delegate. It also teaches responsibility for your kids to have, and also engages family members. They're more, they get it more if they're involved with the amount of work that holiday season can present, and are more part of it that way. So, and when we look at gifts giving, it's another way to, another thing to look at on dispelling myths. The number of gifts measure the amount of love. Well, we know that the reality that that's not true. It's acceptable to overspend since holidays only come once a year. People will end up recovering for months, if not the entire year, if they overspend over the holidays. And when you look at that, we really need to kind of reassess and say, that's like that it may not be acceptable to overspend during the holidays, and instead try to budget or stick with a budget as much as possible. Money to cover debt accumulated at Christmas will come from somewhere. Well, there's no Santa Claus that's going to give you a big check in your stocking. So the reality is that coming from somewhere is coming from your checkbook. Be careful. This year's gifts need to be better than last year. Again, question that one. They don't need to be better. They don't need to be more. They don't need to be keeping up with the other neighbors or family members, or again, that competition thing of more is better. So this year's gifts do not need to be better than last year. In fact, many people, and I'm expecting some of you that have adjusted your made changes to your holiday season, that may have included that gift giving may have changed in some way, that you draw names to give gifts to one extended family member, or again, limit the number of gifts that go to your kids, whatever it is, or to friends or neighbors. So looking at that can help on a number of levels, including the keeping within a budget. When we kind of look also at some gift-giving rules or suggestions, well, actually, this is continued down to, we've already, it's looking at money, but making sure, or trying to have a budget to avoid a financial hangover. So we've referred to that, another encouragement to do that. The alternate ways to give gifts, sharing the expense of holiday meals. So that's the other thing, at least, or even we do that in the form of potlucks with family members bringing over a side dish perhaps. That's one aspect of sharing the expense of holiday meals. But, again, if it's something that might be a neighbor gathering, then it might be something that you kind of look at another way to do that as well. Do activities with family and friends that cost little or no money. So, again, these days with a sunny sky, and it might be chilly, but today's actually feeling like a very nice day to go for a walk to the park, or go, again, my zoo lights. I'm plugging zoo lights. I hope the zoo gives me a kickback on that. Things that cost little or no money. It may not be free up at the zoo, but it's less expensive. Things that include, other ideas. Many of you have ideas. If we're in a group setting, there'd be many things that can be shared. Making cookies together, decorating the tree together, going Christmas caroling with neighbors. So activities, again, that can cost little or no money to keep within your budget. And remember the reason for the season. We lose track of that when we're in the middle of it all, of saying, wait a minute, what is this about? This is a joyful time of year. Whatever our religious tradition is to celebrate that religious tradition. It's to be with family and friends and enjoy the season. So remembering the reason for the season, which we often lose track of with the craziness of the season. So in terms of managing time, shop early, have a list, make a list and have a list and carry it with you so that, again, you don't get sidetracked by all the little come-ons in the department stores that want you to buy this or buy that. The eye candy of, and be careful about taking your kids shopping with you. I would encourage you to maybe do that separately because they can be a source of wanting anything and everything. Refuse invitations. That sounds almost like, how do we say no to the neighbors? Well, it can be, people understand. So saying no or deciding if there's too many things on the calendar that you say, this year it's not going to work for us to come over to your Christmas Eve gathering. People are going to be very gracious about that. Make sure to make time for yourself. We get caught in this nonstop doing because there feels like there's so much to do. And the most important, until we're kind of stretched and we burn out, or we hit the wall and then we end up getting sick and we're out for the count anyway for a couple days. If we don't take care of ourselves, which includes making time for yourself, then it almost needs to be, in my opinion, needs to be scheduled just like your invitations from the neighbors or your scheduled events, saying this is going to be a time for me. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go for a cup of tea with a friend. I'm going to read my book, whatever it might be. Make and schedule time for yourself so that you can make sure that you're feeding yourself and can renew yourself and don't get too burnt out. Share the tasks and responsibilities. It's okay to say no. Reducing holiday stress also means setting realistic goals. Again, some of this is redundant, but it bears repeating. Pace yourself, organize your time, make a list and prioritize your tasks, say no. Don't spend too much time preparing for just one day or one couple of days. Set a budget and stick to it, a real budget. How much can I use from income? How much can I put on credit? How much am I spending on gifts and entertainment, so that there's no surprises from the holidays, especially after things at the end of it all, where we get the real reality. So when we talk about 5 ways of coping with stress, some suggestions are commitment. So you sort of have a commitment for your own self-care. Meditation, reflection, which were diet, exercise, and attitude. So we're going to kind of review these one by one as well. When we talk about commitment, it's making the commitment to deal with stress in a positive light. That can be the key. If you commit to dealing with stress positively, you're already halfway there. So, we've got the glass is half empty or the glass is half full. Some of us have a leaning in one direction or another. But I think it can help on the outset to kind of make the commitment that you want to deal with stress in a positive light or in a realistic light. Sometimes the positive Pollyanna thinking can also get us in trouble. We think that it'll be, that's how we get into trouble. Oh, things will take care of themselves. If I overspend on the holidays, it'll all be taken care of. That's Pollyanna thinking. That's different than positive. That's positive thinking that's not helpful, but realistic thinking of saying, yes, what is going to be a lower stress way and more positive way of looking at the holiday period. When we talk about meditation, a suggestion, doing some meditation. Meditation doesn't mean that you have to kind of sequester yourself in a quiet room with the lights low, listening to a meditation CD for 30 minutes. Because that is hard for many of us. There's simple things that can be done, and if we even look at taking a moment right now, and you can do this at your desk, close your eyes and notice your breathing, the breath coming in and the breath going out. Quietly even repeating a word to yourself like calm or peace with each in-breath and each out-breath. Continue to do this slow breathing, the breath going in and going out. Thoughts will come and go because we have our monkey minds, but you can notice the thought and then let it go and return to your breath. And then another thought will come up, notice, but then let it go. Continuing this for, right now we're doing it for less than a minute. If you can do it for 5 minutes, great. If you can do it for 10 minutes, better yet. But there's no judgment on or expectation of how long you do a breathing exercise. Now, with our short breathing exercise, taking one more full breath, breathing in and breathing out, and gradually coming back to your room, your computer, where you're watching this webinar. And thanks, you just took a moment for yourself. It didn't take very long. I hope it gave you a moment of relaxation, and that alone can be helpful during this holiday time in terms of the self-care and your getting through this busy holiday. When we talk about diet or nutrition, it can be very helpful to be more attentive to consuming more vegetables, fruits, complex carbohydrates, whole grains. Remember to drink your water. And the vitamins A, multivitamin B, C, and E are very helpful vitamins, especially during stressful or busy times. We can also be attentive to consuming less sugar. Yes, it's a sugar season. We have cookies, we have holiday treats, but where we can, being more careful about the sugar that we're consuming. White flour, drinks containing alcohol and caffeine that we've talked about, processed foods and fats. When we talk also then about exercise, exercise helps the body cope with mental and physical effects of stress. In a comparison study where exercise was compared to an antidepressant, and it was shown that exercise can be as effective as an antidepressant in relieving depression. The same is true with general stress, that we know that if we have, when we do exercise, have that outlet, it helps our body to cope with mental and physical stress, effects of stress. Set realistic goals, weight loss, endurance, strength training. So again, being realistic with our own expectations, that we may end up eating more over the holidays. It's very difficult not to. After the holidays, we can look at setting realistic goals of weight loss, of saying, now I can keep better track of what I am eating and how much I'm eating. And again, endurance, strength training. What people can sometimes make the mistake of, many of us, is that we set this unrealistic New Year's resolution at the end of this holiday season, and set ourselves up for failure by saying, I'm going to get to the gym every day or 3 or 4 times a week, and I'm going to have cardio for 30 minutes, and then I'm going to do strength training, and then I'm going to take up, training for the marathon next year, or whatever unrealistic, what for many of people, most of us, can be somewhat unrealistic. So setting realistic goals after the holidays, if not beginning to look at that now, of, again, weight loss, amount of exercise, the frequency of exercise, strength training, whatever you're choosing to do. In general, though, exercise definitely helps the body cope with mental and physical effects of stress. And when we look at attitude, negative versus positive self-talk. So again, the glass is half empty or the glass is half full. So again, we can have influence over at least our thoughts and catching those thoughts when we move towards things that are more negative. Or simple examples are overgeneralizing. It will always be this way. I'll never get this. We'll never get through this holiday season. I'll never do it as well as XYZ friend of mine. The always, never, nobody understands me. Are examples of unhelpful self-talk versus many times or often it can be a stressful time of year, but it's not always and everyone. So even watching that overgeneralizing self-talk. Another example is catastrophizing talk. This is terrible, awful, horrible. I can't stand it. Well, we're usually standing it when we say we can't stand it. So even reducing that to this is unfortunate or this is a bit stressful right now, but it's less heavy, it's less weighty as this is terrible, awful, horrible. So even modifying our self-talk to be more helpful. And then the third one is the shoulds, oughts, and musts. I should do it this way. I ought to do it as well as my neighbor, whatever those shoulds, oughts, and musts are for you. Changing that to I wish or want or prefer, just taking away that the shoulds, because that gets us in trouble most of the time. The only real should is the bus, realistic should is the bus should be here at 9 a.m. because the schedule says so, or our kids should be at school by 8:30 because that's when classes start. But otherwise, most of our shoulds are self-imposed of the, again, unrealistic expectations we put on ourselves and we put on others. Challenge yourself to look on the bright side. So again, not in a Pollyanna set yourself up for failure way, but in a way of saying, you know, there are two ways to look at the glass as half empty, or I can look at the glass as half full. And taking time for some moments of gratefulness. So a gratefulness exercise, that can be anything. It can just be taking, again, some time in your day to say, or at the end of the day to say, what am I grateful for today? I'm grateful because I had, my kids are home and healthy. I'm grateful because it's sunny outside today. I'm grateful because I heard from a good friend of mine. I'm grateful for the good, wonderful things that I have in my life right now. Whatever that might be. Even starting the day with an expectation of that I want this day to go smoothly. I will feel grateful for what comes my way today. I will greet each moment with openness. So there can be ways to do this both at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. But if we are just kind of going on total cruise control, which gets very fast-paced over the holidays, and don't take time to do that, again, we're losing sight of, again, the meaning of the holidays, the meaning of what's important to us, of our priorities. So taking some time to be grateful, I think, is very important. So as we look at finding the true meaning of the holidays, it's a time to celebrate a religious holiday. We've talked about that. It's a time to enjoy family. It can be a time to make, bake, and enjoy the holiday treats. Again, if you don't make or bake, then that's okay too. I think one of the setups for me is feeling like, you know, I need to bake my own cookies or else I'm not a good mom, or everybody else makes these crafty items for the holidays. I'm not a good mom because I'm not good at that. So being careful about how we set ourselves up, even with some of these, finding the true meaning of the holidays. Make it realistic for yourself. Holidays are a time to celebrate with family and friends. It's also a time to help others and be active in the community. So the reality that I think is also important for ourselves and for our kids is to remember that there are a lot of people that are a lot less fortunate than we are, both in our local community, let alone globally. So just to kind of have a heart opening of a recognition of that, and then if possible, if it can work for you, look for opportunities to help others. Or even making sure to clear out the closet and have some donations that can go to transition projects or people, the homeless people right now that are really having a hard time with the cold and the rain when it comes back. What kind of donation might you be able to put together for those folks? Being active in the community, even if it's the neighborhood, then that's also part of the meaning of the holidays. So finding what that might be for you all, in your individual circumstances can be helpful. So when we look at this, we've talked about a lot of ideas. Some may be new ideas, some may be just reminders of things that you want to pay attention to, but it can be helpful to kind of there can be an aspect to this that is more, again, making a commitment of saying, I am going to start doing X, Y, whatever. I'm going to stop doing X, Y, Z. I'm going to continue a wonderful tradition of whatever it is. So again, it's an individual contract that would fit what's important to you, but that's part of making a commitment. I'm going to start doing something different. I'm going to stop doing something that's not helpful. I'm going to continue a wonderful tradition of whatever it is that gives meaning to you during this holiday season. So as we kind of end this webinar, there's one last polling question, which is, do you plan to make adjustments after listening to this webinar? So if you could take a moment to answer that question, I hope it's been helpful. Again, the PowerPoint is available to you to look at after the seminar, and again, some questionnaires, which include a questionnaire that's on analyzing your holiday, which actually refers to many of these things that we reviewed in our presentation. Around time, around gift giving, around spirituality and meaning, around health and well-being, around family life. The Analyzing Your Holiday questionnaire will help you to see how you're doing on this, but built into it, it's not to make you feel bad if you score low or high stress, but rather gives you some suggestions and reminders of things that can be helpful. So looking at that and looking again what your priorities for your own family holiday are the encouragements after this seminar that you continue with making adjustments as you choose. I love the answers to this polling question number 3, where 100% of you have indicated that you plan to make adjustments after listening to this webinar. So I wish you all a happy holiday season, and I wish you all a low-stress holiday season. Take time for yourself and create a holiday that works for you and for your family. Thank you very much for attending today.